For this activity, we are not going to draw pictures or actually solve our problems, but we are going to look at several examples of both multiplication and division story problems. We're going to identify first whether it's multiplication or division, and then also identify if it's multiplication, is it groups of objects, lists, counting, area of an array, or multiplicative comparison. Those were our 4 models for multiplication. Or if it's division, is it equal grouping, sharing, or array area? And then we're also going to write our setup equation for each of these problems. And our equation will always be a multiplication setup, even if it's a division problem, and we'll just use a question mark for the unknown value. So an easy way to tell if it's multiplication or division will be to go ahead and do the setup equation. And if we know what the 2 numbers are that we're multiplying and we're looking for some answer, right, then we know it's multiplication. Versus if I know the total, right, if I have this number, but I'm missing either the first or the second number, then I'm multiplying, right? So either the first one or the second one, then that would tell me that it's division. So let's look at the example they've done. It says a marching band is arranged into 4 rows with 8 people in each row. How many people are in the marching band? So I would probably start with the setup equation, and I know that this is going to be either the area of an array for multiplication or the array area for division. It has to be one of those because it's talking about rows. So I would do how many rows it is times, in this case, people per row to get the total number of people. And in this case, since I know both the number of rows and 8 people per row, since I know those 2 things I'm multiplying, this tells me that this has to be the multiplication model. So this is multiplication area of an array. So then let's go ahead and look at some of these problems and work through them. So looking at this one, number 1, Tasty Treats Bakery makes specialty breads to order. Customers can choose the type of dough and add-ins. The dough choices are white or whole wheat. The add-in choices are banana nut, orange, cranberry, rosemary, or jalapeno cheese. How many different types of bread does the bakery make? So this one talking about like the number of dough choices and the number of add-in choices to get like how many different types can we get. This would be a list or counting problem. And technically you could see this with division, but we would still consider it to be a multiplication model. If you saw it with division, it would just mean that they would tell you the total number of breads, and maybe they would tell you like the number of choices for dough, but then maybe they wouldn't tell you the number of choices for add-in, or vice versa. Maybe they tell you the number of add-in choices, but not the dough choices. So you would just be finding a different missing value. So we're going to say this is list/counting. And with list/counting problems, it actually does not matter what order you write your multiplicands. So I'm just going to list it in the order that they did. So they had 2 dough choices because they had white or whole wheat. And then we had, let's see, banana nut, orange. Looks like that's orange cranberry. So that can be a little bit misleading here, right? So it's not saying orange and then cranberry. There's no comma there. So I kind of don't like that, especially where it goes on to the next line. That makes it a little bit tricky. So then rosemary or jalapeno cheese. So banana nut, orange cranberry, rosemary, or jalapeno cheese. So there's 4, right? So this would be times 4 add-ins. And typically we put the per on there, so I would say add-ins per dough choice. And that would give me the total number of different breads, which is what I don't know here. All right, and we'll stop there. We don't need to solve that or do anything else with that. All right, so then let's take a look at number 2. Factory workers had 800 rolls of toilet paper to put into packages. When they finished, they had made 25 packages. if they put the same number of rolls in each package, how many rolls of toilet paper are in each package? So looking at this, I would say this is probably division. If you're not sure though, we can always set up our setup equation. And in terms of what this is, so this is either going to be my sharing or my equal group problem, right? And so I think the setup equation will help cement that for us, but how can I know? So if you know how many go in each group, right? If you know that, then that would tell you that it is an equal grouping problem, right? If you know how many are in a group, right? In this case, I know my total. I've got 800 rolls of toilet paper. I know how many packages. And so in this case, my packages would be my groups. I don't know how many are in each package, right? So this would be our sharing or partition problem. But again, I think it's easier to see that if you go ahead and do the setup equation. So let's do that. So I know that I've got packages and I've got rolls, right? Rolls of toilet paper and packages. So I know that in my multiplication setup, this second number is going to be either rolls per package or packages per roll. I think knowing the number of toilet paper rolls per package makes sense. Except I don't know that, right? So it wants to know how many rolls of toilet paper are in a package. So this is what I don't know. And then that means that I must know the number of packages, which would go here. And again, I'm just doing the fact that the units always match. So the first units match what comes after the word per, right? And what comes before the word per would go on my total. Every single time. So in this case, I know that there are 25 packages and I know that there are 800 total rolls. So if I were to solve this, I would do 800 divided by 25 and find that answer. So again, how do I know for certain whether this is equal grouping or sharing if I don't know the second number, right? If I don't know how many are in each package or in each group, that's sharing, right? If I did know that information, it would be grouping. All right, Tira plans to wallpaper one wall in her living room. The length of the wall is 12 feet and the height of the wall is 8 feet. How many square feet of wallpaper will Tira need to cover the wall? And they're giving us a hint here to break the wall into squares and to say how many rows and squares per row that there are, right? So if I do need the help here, it wouldn't hurt to just do like a rough drawing and say, okay, I know the length is 12, I know the width is 8, right? So that means that 8 would be the number of rows. And then 12 would have to be then the number of squares per row, right? So you can imagine, I'm not going to do it, but you can imagine drawing 8 rows and then putting 12 squares in each row. So this is going to be, since I know both of those numbers, this is going to be multiplication. Again, I'm talking about arranging into rows, so this is area of an array. So then let me go ahead and do my setup here. So this is going to be 8 rows times 12 squares per row. Or if you wanted to say square feet per row, that's fine. Or I guess technically, is this square feet or square inches? It's square feet, yeah. So square feet per row. And then that would equal the total number of square. One more on this page, the area of a rectangular picture frame is 80 square inches. If the width of the frame is 8 inches, find the length of the frame. So this one, I would say is also area, but on this one, since I know the area and I'm missing one of the dimensions, that would tell me that this is division. So again, for my setup, I'm going to do it in terms of a number of rows times the number of objects per row. In this case, it's square inches. And then that would give me the total number of square inches, or the total area. So in this case, I know the total area is 80 square inches. And I also know, so if the width is 8, that would be this side, right? I'm trying to find the length, right? So if it helps to draw a rough sketch of that picture, you could. So I know the number of rows. There's going to be 8 rows going this way. I don't know the number of square inches per row.